Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Guys, today we're joined by Ustad Muaawiyah Takar, alhamdulillah.
Okay, thanks for having me.
How you doing, Shaykh?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. I have had a long day, but a beautiful day, alhamdulillah.
Allahumma barik, mashallah, tabarakallah. So look, just to reintroduce you to the people, you graduated from the Islamic University of Medina, mashallah, tabarakallah, and over a decade doing da'wah in the UK after having graduated. Islamic finance was an area of expertise and interest for yourself, mashallah.
I would say more interest and expertise, but yeah.
Mashallah, tabarakallah. And specifically, crypto, and then more specifically, Bitcoin, alhamdulillah.
I mean, yeah, in a nutshell, it's a bit loosely said, because it's not like I specialize in a topic just to be, because it's more to do with an avenue, as I say all the time, to escape from riba.
MashaAllah.
And I think that's just one avenue that's been neglected by a few. There's always something we can always do to improve our overall holistic dawah, but I just feel that the money aspect has always been neglected.
It's interesting. I actually would like to explore this with you in a podcast dedicated to this topic. But just very briefly, just to kind of also just mention on a point of relatability, that's one of the reasons we started the Righteous and Rich Project. You know, a lot of people see it as like, what happened? You were doing da'wah and what's going on? Bro, the objective is still the same. It's just that in giving da'wah to the people over the last decade, I found that one of the biggest obstacles was money. And then when you don't have avenues to make halal money in a way that's appropriate, you're going to go do it in haram or do it in a way where it's going to compromise your deen or cause your iman to go low. And then what happens when you want to go hajj, you want to do umrah, you want to, do talab al-ilm, seeking knowledge, but then you got bills to pay, right? So it's like, that's one of the reasons that we came here, is to provide a service for the Muslims in that regard. And likewise, for you, like riba is specifically the thing that you're...
I mean, I've always been that way. Even before I learned what Bitcoin was, there was a time when I was a gold bug, and I was like telling everyone, we should return to the gold standard. I mean, at the time I wasn't aware of the limitations of gold, but the vision at least was there's something wrong with the systems we are, and due to the nature of the system or the nature of the beast, kind of forced. It's almost like we're all in the river that's flowing in a certain direction. You may swim one way, but the river is flowing another way.
Yeah.
So even you mentioned about your project of helping people earn a living so they can look after themselves financially and whatnot. That's kind of a byproduct of our society, whereby everything's so monetized, everything is so commercialized, that you have no choice but to essentially that be your main objective in life, just to acquire money, because you can't function in any other way.
You can't even get Quran.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
you can, but consistently, like in the sense.
So there's a lot of limitations that have, or you could say our environment is highly influenced by its core, which is our money. But yeah.
So I think this should be a very good topic to explore in a lot more depth, inshallah ta'ala, since you're here with us for a few weeks. Shaykh, today I wanted to dive in on the issue of zakat. And the reason I wanted to dive in on the issue of zakat is because I have recently become horrified as to how few business owners are actually paying zakat, let alone the lay person, right? The laity. And there's some that are just outwardly not paying zakat. It's like, and it's not even an issue of they're trying to be stingy. They're just not.
It's not in the head.
It's just not in their head. Number two, they're just giving charity and thinking that they don't have to pay zakat because of it, because a normal sadaqah will suffice. I gave more than 2.5%. The third thing that I found is giving it, but it's completely wrong. You're giving it to people that you shouldn't be giving zakat to. You're giving zakat on the wrong thing. So I've become really, 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 really horrified and concerned, because zakat is literally, as they say, the qareen, the friend, the brother of salah in our deen. Allah mentions salah and zakat, I think, like 70 odd times in the Quran. Have you? It seems like you've also seen that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I did a whole series on zakah because I want to explore. I mean, I initially just tried to answer one simple question about zakah. I thought I'd make a little short video. But as I did that, I thought, you know what? There's actually more to cover here.
Yeah.
And then as I dug deeper, I realized the topic goes way deeper than and I think that's the problem, because people assume that zakah
is just 2%.
That's it. It's very simple, and there's no depth to it. And people even forget, oh, I have to pay zakah. I mean, I even know one brother, mashallah, came to Islam, as we all do. I mentioned to him about zakah, and he said, oh yeah, I haven't paid zakah, like, ever. As in, he's new revert, but he'd been Muslim a couple of years. And it hadn't occurred to him that he should pay zakah. He said, yeah, I think I should pay that. I said, yes, you should.
Absolutely should.
But again, it was, you come to Islam, you say shahada, you pray, you do hajj and umrah. And usually that's the ironic thing, is that we think of hajj and umrah first,
before zakah.
and zakah is maybe something in the periphery, where it's actually the opposite. Zakah is before fasting and hajj, in terms of if you're talking about tartib or order. So yeah, it is definitely something which is neglected, but for multiple reasons. If a person lives in Muslim countries, I think maybe they'd be more aware, because some Muslim countries integrate zakah into their system.
Yeah.
So like
wages that come every month, they'll deduct it out.
I don't know. I'm not sure how they do it. If it's deducted from wages, because it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
If that's the case, it shouldn't be deducted from wages. But like, for example, in Malaysia, if you pay zakah, you can use what you've paid in zakah to deduct from your taxes. So you're incentivized to give zakah because you pay less tax.
Wow.
And also they have a whole system of receiving zakah, giving out zakah, distribution of zakah. Same thing in Indonesia. Indonesia have a whole system of defining or discovering who are the eligible ones to accept zakah. Yeah. It's quite deep.
Indonesia seems to be like a really good country. Like Indonesia and Malaysia, like in terms of like looking out for these societal Islamic issues.
I would say, generally speaking, Indonesia is way more invested in Islam holistically than in Malaysia. Malaysia also. But Indonesia, you have to remember that Indonesia is like 90% Muslim, whereas Malaysia is less. There's a large percentage of Chinese and Indian people who are living in Malaysia. So they got that to deal with. But yeah, you'd be surprised how much of Islam is well integrated into their system, into their governance. It's there. We have this vision, and I think almost propaganda. I think it's propaganda from Takfiris, that no Muslim countries apply Sharia. If you actually look at it, almost all of them apply Sharia at various levels. Yes, they have their shortcomings, but if you actually look at the details of the Sharia, you find it there. In normal everyday legal system.
Like for example, even here, the masajid here, here in the UAE, there's a box that says zakat on it at the exit every day. Like you can't miss it. You can't miss it.
And like I said, some countries enforce it at a higher level. They send out people to come and collect zakat or letters or whatever case may be. It's not just a case whereby you give zakat when you feel like it. No, they make effort to make sure you do. And I remember one time, actually, the year I graduated from Medina, I was driving on a road towards where the Majamma', where the Quran Masahif are printed. And I just glanced sideways and I saw a building which I've seen all the time, but I just never paid attention
to what it actually was.
It says Wazarat al-Zakah wal-Amwal wal-Awqaf, something like that. And I was like, what? So I turned the car around.
Ministry of Zakat.
Ministry of Zakah. So I turned the car around and went inside. I said, you can do Zakah here, yeah? I'm not even joking. Because, it never occurred to me that there would actually be a ministry, an actual building and employees that deals with zakah. You just don't think of it, but it's there. It's there.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
So that's how shocked I was.
So I think business owners have a greater challenge in terms of understanding the sophistication, the nuances of paying zakat, because there's different assets. Money is sometimes in the bank, sometimes it's in assets, sometimes it's like this money is here today, but it's tomorrow I'm going to use it to pay wages and so on and so forth. So I feel like that's obviously got its own kind of nuances that we're going to analyze and assess today for business owners as well. Also, are we paying zakat on stock? Are we paying it on wealth? What's stock? What's wealth? We'll come into that, inshallah ta'ala. But what I wanted to start off first and foremost is just letting you guys know what's coming, inshallah ta'ala. Of course, it's going to benefit those who are not business owners as well. So first of all, was like, what is zakat?
So I actually just got into a little Twitter spat the other day, actually. Someone about zakat, because he was saying it was a tax, and I was saying, no, we don't have tax in Islam. And he was saying, well, it's under the definition of a tax. And I still, I mean, I understand his point of view. His view was anything a government takes from the people is considered a tax. And I don't agree with that. Number one, just looking at zakat specifically though, because he included other things, but zakat specifically, one of the features that I would say that will separate zakat from tax is that, number one, you don't necessarily give it to the government. If it is given to the government, it's only because they are facilitating giving it to who it's supposed to go to.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not like I give it to the government. It's not part of government spending. Governments don't spend zakat.
Yeah.
So zakat is to be given to the 8 bodies that I mentioned in the Quran, which we'll discuss a bit later. But it's something that you can be given directly. It's something that's given independent of government. Whether government exists or not exists, zakat is given.
And you can literally just go give it to someone right now.
Yeah. So to call it a tax means to intrinsically attach it to government. Where it's not intrinsically attached to government. It's just something that government can facilitate the distribution of zakat and also make sure it's been given. But it's not a tax like that. So I would say mandatory donation, which might be an oxymoron if donation means something which is one has a choice. You don't have a choice. So that's why I added the word mandatory. But yeah, I would just define it as a mandatory donation as part of certain types of wealth or money to be given once a year or once whenever it's due.
Also, I think another point that's important to mention, because I feel like some people feel like when they're giving zakat, it's like it's my money and I'm giving it out. But the way Allah Azza wa Jalla describes it in the Quran, that it is, subhanahu wa ta'ala, said, وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ. It's the ones who, this wealth that they have, there's a haqq that belongs to someone from this wealth that you have. Who? لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. The people that are in need. So this wealth that you have, Allah is saying that those people that are in need, who are asking for this wealth, who are in need of it, they have a right over this wealth.
It's theirs.
It's theirs. It's not yours. Yeah. And I think that's a really important way to look at it, because, like, subhanAllah, just on a personal note, I had a bit of a situation. So, I gave out a loan in Bitcoin, as you know, right? Yeah. Which, inshallah, is going to be coming back to me soon. But when I gave out the loan, Bitcoin was low. And now, since then, it's like 3x.
Which is their problem, not your problem.
Right. But this year, obviously it's a debt, right? So I still had to pay zakat on it. But I had to pay the zakat in pounds.
Well, we'll probably discuss that a bit later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any Bitcoin left. So I had to pay it in pounds. But the amount I paid was, in that moment in time, it was massive compared to what it would have usually been, right? And I had to pay it from, obviously, fiat currency, pounds, right? Or whatever have you.
Because you don't have anything else.
I didn't have anything else at the time. So at the moment, I was like, a part of me was like, this is a lot. And I don't even have that right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's a debt that's owed to me. They're just remembering, bro, it's not mine. This Allah decreed that this is the right of the needy person. Like, it's not mine. Like, Allah decreed this wealth is not mine.
Well, I mean, the way I usually like to explain it or look at it, it's like cheese. So imagine
if you don't have any cheese, you know, I'll be honest, go on.
It's like cheese, isn't it? So imagine you had a block of cheese in the fridge, and it was there for a while. So a year passed, bruv. A whole year passed, cheese in the fridge. And you looked in the cheese, and you saw on the side of the cheese there was it went green. It's got a bit mold on it. So how can I consume this cheese? It's now moldy. I mean, not all of it's moldy. Some of it's moldy. So you have to purify that cheese. You have to remove that moldy part from the cheese, so the remaining cheese you can now consume.
Yeah.
The same thing with zakah. over time, a portion of your wealth will no longer be yours. In fact, it will actually taint your money or your wealth, just like that moldy cheese is tainting your cheese. And the only way to bring it back to how it was before is to remove it.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that if you don't give the zakat out when it's due, it corrupts, as you said, the wealth.
That's what zakat means. Zakat is purify. So you are purifying your wealth by removing it from in your possession and giving it to who it needs to go to. So that's that. I mean, this is all an analogy. I'm not saying the zakat is cheese or there's zakat on cheese. I'm just saying that
it could be if it's stock.
If it's stock, yeah. But it's just that you should think of it, not think of this thing as being your thing. It is no longer your. If anything, it's a tainted piece of wealth. And there's actually a research article. I haven't finished it, but it was to discuss the properties, or one of the properties of zakah. What I mean by properties is all forms of wealth, all of it, house, car, whatever it is, over time it degrades. It's just by definition. If you have a house, if you just leave it there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years.
In value? Or you mean...
No, itself.
Oh, okay, yes.
It degrades.
Yeah, time deteriorates.
Time deteriorates, yeah. And there's actually one kafir, his name is Michael Saylor. He mentioned
that... Not itself, in case anyone's thinking that I'm attributing certain qualities. As in, with the passage of time.
Yeah. So there's one kafir actually mentioned a very good point about wealth. He said that any asset you have, deduct about 10% yearly from that value for maintenance, just to keep it as it was. So if you have like a villa or a mansion that's worth $10 million, about 10% of that yearly, you just have to keep it as it was when you bought it.
Yes.
Because if you don't, it will degrade.
Yes, that's
over
true.
time.
Yeah.
With a boat, a car, whatever it is.
Yeah. Clothes.
Except money.
Cleaning, washing.
Except money.
Okay.
Gold will sit there nice and pristine and beautiful as time passes on. There's no natural way of degradation of your money.
Okay.
But zakah levels the playing field. It artificially or by virtue of the hukum or the ruling puts in your wealth that natural deterioration that comes with all wealth. And essentially by just having it, it will automatically by virtue degrade, just like anything else. So it kind of makes money behave like all other types of wealth. Because imagine this, you might say, why is there no zakat on a house? Why is there no zakat on this? Why is there no zakat on that? Because they already have inbuilt within it degradation.
I mean, there are certain circumstances where it could be on house and wealth, on cars, which we'll talk
about in a minute.
Yeah.
But on that, I'll say no.
Okay.
But we'll discuss that in a minute later on. But yeah, the fact is, I would say that one of the and that's one of the features if you look at it again, why interest is such a big issue. Because interest not only does money not degrade naturally, interest is the actual opposite.
Oh, it inflates artificially.
Well, I don't want to get to the technicals of the word, but
okay, not inflates.
But in terms of rather than degrade in value, interest increases in value. So it actually does. So if you look at it in that regards, interest is totally unnatural. Everything else, natural, your phone, your computer, everything just degrades. The table we have, everything naturally by virtue of nature or Allah's creation degrades. Entropy just degrades, except money. And interest is the complete opposite. It does the reverse of it. So you could say, in a nutshell, interest is unnatural. It's unnatural behavior of money or wealth. Whereas zakah is the natural behavior of wealth, but imposed by hukum, by sharia.
And by that virtue, obviously creates benefit for all the poor people and
yeah, that's true.
And so forth.
Or actually, you just touched upon the thing which I forgot about that. When you look at your wealth, because you just mentioned a part of the story which I failed to mention. When your house degrades, how do you repair it?
By, calling in an expert.
Hiring someone.
Yeah.
So you paid someone money to maintain it. So the poor are benefiting from your wealth. By nature, by virtue of it just degrading. So if you were to emulate that with money, how can the poor benefit from your gold?
As in you've hired a person who you have money to fix the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
As in this poor person or this other person who's need money, he's brought into you to wax the hull of your ship or to buff your car or to maintain your engine. So he's benefiting by you just having your wealth. Except money. There's no way for him to benefit from your money unless we impose that in there with zakah. So the poor or the needy or whatever, they still benefit from you having money. So essentially, by virtue of zakah is the way of balancing the scales with all your wealth. All your wealth, by virtue of having the wealth, benefits the poor in a trickle down motion. By you having it, it just trickles down to the rest of the people. Whereas interest does the complete opposite. It allows you to suck up the value from the poor back up to you. So it's unnatural, it's unhealthy, and it's destructive.
It's literally the opposite of zakah.
It's not just the opposite of zakah. It's the opposite of how Allah created everything. Everything degrades. Everything gets by entropy, destroys itself. So for those who might know, some may know, but some might not know. I use the word entropy. What does entropy even mean? Some people describe it as destruction or something, but all entropy means is whereby, imagine you have water. Or here's another example. When you have tea, your wife makes you tea, and she adds milk. The moment that milk hits that tea, that milk is localized in a location. But over time, through entropy, the milk dissipates so that it encompasses the whole cup of tea. It averages out everywhere. So entropy means to average out, to become uniform. That's the opposite of wealth. I have accumulated wealth because I've got skill, I've got business, and it's accumulated into a little pile. But over time, entropy lets it flow outwards to those who don't have. What interest does is the complete opposite. It sucks it backwards. So just like you can't turn back time, because here's the question, and the scientists ask, what causes time to go forward, not backwards? Entropy. I'm not going to the science of it, but entropy is what causes things to go forward and not backwards. It causes you to, for example, you can't unstir a cup of tea. So it's called entropy. So likewise, interest is the complete opposite of how Allah created creation.
Okay.
It's unnatural. That's a bit of philosophical.
No, that's very nice. We've got to do a podcast on riba as well.
But just to conclude, so the way to summarize what we just said, zakah is almost as if it's an art. I say artificial because it's not natural. It doesn't naturally happen, but it's an artificial way of simulating the natural entropy of all things on your wealth that doesn't have that, which is your gold and your silver and your whatever. It doesn't naturally do that, and allows what you have to trickle to those who don't have.
I think one thing that's also worth mentioning here is that I find like nowadays, because everyone has just like a consciousness of like political, social, economic situations around the world, we explain, it's like this, sometimes Sharia only gets explained in those contexts. But of course there's a fun foundation which I think is important for people to just not forget, which is this is an ibadah, it's a worship of Allah. So even if we didn't know the wisdom that you just explained or some of the wisdoms that you've explained, you would still have to do it, because there's some things in the Sharia that Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't tell us the reason or the wisdom behind it, right? Zakat obviously is one of those things that we have multiple reasons and wisdoms behind it, as you explained, but this is an act of worship. So sometimes it's like, people are in that mindset of, I'll only do this if I understand why. You do this because Allah Azza wa Jalla commanded you to do it. And that's something that's really important. So Shaykh, just very quickly, how serious is not paying zakat? Like in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla?
I guess it's as serious as eating moldy cheese. Back to the analogy, if you have cheese which has gone off and you consume that moldy cheese, obviously it will harm you. Because you're consuming that which is corrupted. It's not for you. You're supposed to eat the good cheese, not the bad cheese. But there's no way to not do that unless you remove it. So on that analogy, if you have wealth that is no longer halal for you, no longer good for you to use, and you're using it, it will obviously impact what you use it for. So your children and whatnot. Like I said, what would moldy cheese do to the rest of your cheese?
It'll corrupt it. So then all
so that's just basically, I was just continuing the analogy. But obviously on the straightforward answer is the second pillar of Islam, or the second pillar of, Well, the third pillar of Islam, the Shahada, the Salah, and then Zakah.
Second of the Ibadah,
So-
the actions.
The action, yeah, so it's something that Abu Bakr felt the need to go to war for those who refuse to pay the Zakah.
Yeah.
So it's that serious.
And the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, at the time, there was a man who refused to give zakat, and then the Prophet ﷺ, he, like as a consequence, said that it was to be taken forcefully off him, وَشَطْرَ مَالِهِ, and half of his wealth. So now it's not just 2.5, half, like as a punishment, you know, as a punishment, and of course it also corrupts you in terms of what you're going to see on the day of judgment. Like
Definitely.
as Allah Azza wa Jalla said in سَيُطَوَّقُونَ مَا بَخِلُوا بِهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The hadith in Sahih Muslim explains it, where there's a snake that will come and wrap itself around the neck of the person, and it will say, "Ana maluk, I'm your wealth, ana khanzuk, I am your treasure." So then the wealth that you hoarded will take the form of a snake and choke the person around its neck and squeeze. And some of the other narrations mention it will chase the person down until he ends up in the fire to escape the snake that's chasing after him. And Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in Surah Tawbah that their foreheads and their sides are going to be burnt, like the way you burn something on a plate. And this is because of the wealth that they used to hoard. So it's not a joke, you know. It's not something small, and it's
not
been taken so lightly, and may Allah forgive us. Ameen.
I mean,
Shaykh, who's required to pay zakat? Who is zakat due on?
so it's not due on anyone. It's due on the wealth. That's important to understand, because people might ask, okay, what about this person? What about that person? Just ignore all of that. It's not due on a person. It's due on the money. If money exists, zakat has to be paid. The only part where the person is involved is to define the quantity. Meaning, if you had a family of 10 people and live in a house, every one of them has money. Collectively, their money is, mashallah, it's loads. But individually, it's still below the threshold. There's no zakah. So we don't look at the individual in terms of, is he eligible, not eligible. We only factor the individual in terms of how much money does that person have. So if it's a child, whatever, it doesn't make a difference.
That could be an orphan. That's why an orphan's, if he has inheritance that's been left behind, zakat is still due on that wealth.
Yeah, it's just in wealth, yeah. So we don't say, okay, because the child knows zakat, because it's woman is no zakat.
It's like salah, you wouldn't pray until you hit puberty, but a child hasn't hit puberty, that money still has to be given out.
Yeah, because zakat is on the money.
A guardian will do it on his behalf.
We don't look at who he is or what any attributes attached to him. We just look at, he could be majnoon, could be insane. It doesn't make a difference. We just look at the money.
So if the money has reached a certain threshold and past a certain time period, then zakat would be obligatory on that wealth.
Yeah, so
and the person holding the wealth will be accountable, or his guardian, if he is unable due to insanity or adolescence.
Yeah.
Not adolescence, but being like young, to pay it on their behalf.
Yeah, as it has to be paid somehow. Either they do it, someone else does it, or the government does it. It has to happen. But the threshold, I guess the question is, what is the threshold?
Yeah, so give us an example of when it will become obligatory on a particular person's wealth.
Well, I think before even that question is what is zakat even on? Because again, people think that wealth, there's zakat on wealth, there isn't. There's zakat on certain types of wealth.
Okay.
And like I said, some wealth or some types of wealth have natural forms of degradation or entropy, and therefore its own maintenance is essentially quote unquote it's zakat. The fact you have to pay someone to maintain it is their way to get paid. They get some access to that wealth, you could say, if you're a house, for example, or whatnot. But so the zakat is on 4 things or 4 types of wealth, 5 if you're Hanbali, and the one that everyone knows is the money. The gold, the silver,
or anything that takes its place.
وَمَا يَقُومُ مَقَامُهُ. Yeah, anything that takes place. Anything that functions as money.
So that could be Bitcoin. That could be
100% Bitcoin.
Cash. Right.
Fiat currency.
Fiat currencies.
Technically speaking, yeah. That is what the fatwa, the ulama, that there is zakat on fiat currency. As you know, my position that fiat currency is a big issue. If it's even halal. But yes, because its function is money, then there's zakat on it. I would. The only thing I would say is that anything that functions as money, there's zakat on it.
Yeah.
And it might seem odd if you actually take that to its full definition, but anything that functions as money, there's zakat on it. Then the other one would be on. So that's and that has a particular way in which you're paying zakat and the threshold. Then there is.
So each one of these 5 or 4 types of wealth have a different threshold.
Yes.
Have a different threshold.
So
so money. Okay, we'll talk about thresholds in a second. I guess.
Yeah. So money is one, and then there's money equivalents.
Okay.
And once you define this, it should answer so many questions.
Okay.
When I say money equivalents, I mean things. So, for example, I have £1 million in the bank. Unfortunately, it's in the bank. It should be in Bitcoin, but whatever. I have £1 million in the bank. And I decided to myself, you know what? I want to make that 2 million or 1.5 or whatever the case may be. So what I do, I shift it from that medium or that type into another type temporarily.
A house?
Wait. Temporarily, in order to bring it back to this original type.
Okay.
That's the structure. It's in money form. I'm going to temporarily put into another form in order to bring it back to this form. So it's a temporary transition. It's transitional money, you could say.
Or is it holding money?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying it's just transitional money.
Okay.
I'm trying to give that a broad definition to understand what in the books of fiqh is called urud al-tijara.
Oh, okay. Urud al-tijara. Okay.
Stock, things you purchase to sell.
Okay.
So why is it transitional? Because it's only in that form temporarily before it comes back to this form. I haven't bought the house to live in it. I haven't bought the car to drive it. I haven't bought the watch to wear it. I've only bought it to sell it. So it's temporarily in that form. It's not money because it's not liquid. I can't go to Sainsbury's and say I want to buy some milk with this watch.
But it will be sold soon.
So it's in a temporary limbo of being quasi money.
So that's why it's a money equivalent.
That's why it's still taxable.
Okay.
Sorry, not taxable. It's still zakat. It still forms zakat, and it still follows the rules of the actual money.
Yeah.
So even the nisab, the threshold, whatnot, it follows the same threshold as that, although it's temporary. And we look at it as its actual value, not the value you purchased it at. So for example, I have £1 million. I've bought 10 tons.
Actual value, you mean the value?
Market value.
The market value, the retail value, the retail price.
Well, think of it. I have $1 million. I have now bought 10 tons of pencils to sell. And I only did that to sell it.
At profit.
So once I've got that thing now, then that's the value of that money. It's temporarily in that form, but it's going to become
2 million.
Whatever
let's just price it, because it's an easy number. So then I would pay zakat 2.5% of
the market value
of that stock. So if on the day the zakat is due, I have 100% of the stock available, I work out what's the combined market value of this.
Assuming I put it back into its original form.
Okay.
So you basically assume it at its original form once you've liquidated it. Not liquidated at a loss, but liquidated it at whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if you bought, let's say, $1 million worth of pencils today, and then tomorrow you have to pay zakat, so tomorrow comes, but for whatever reason, the price of pencils halves, you pay 2.5% of half of what you initially paid because it's gone down in value.
But it's the market value.
At the market value, yeah.
Okay, what if I'm charging above the market value?
No, we don't. We look at our market value. You can charge what you like in your head.
I actively sell these, and for me, it's not going to be 2 million in pencils, but I'm charging 10x. It's going to be 10 million.
Okay.
And I actually sell it at that price.
So that's the market value then.
Okay. What if I sell it at below the market value, and I actually sell it at below the market value? I'm selling it, at a very small margin.
So I mean, this is an estimate, obviously. So when they say sell it at market value is determined at the margins. They say, as in when you actually go to execute, that's the price of it, and that could change day to day. So when you actually are evaluating it, it's a guesstimate. It's not actual value. Maybe actually when you do sell it, it's actually more or less than what you estimate it to be. but it's an estimate. You don't actually have to. You don't have to actually calculate. Okay, well, if I did once I do sell it, if it's more, then I'll pay the extra. If it's less, no. You're just doing an estimate. What would it be if someone came in? If I died today, and someone took that and liquidated it, what would they get?
So the only reason I'm asking is because, like, for example, at one time we were selling T-shirts as merchandise, and I was trying to work out, like, when I hear this, sell it, give zakat based on the market value. T-shirts are sold at varying different degrees. Like, for example, Louis Vuitton
based on brand.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's that. So therefore, each brand has its market value. For example, an Adidas T-shirt has a market value. Okay. A Nike has a market value. Yeah. See, this comes a bit of a nuance in terms of this is where this is actually where governments will become involved, where they'll do taqweem, where they'll actually estimate what is this actual value.
You guys see how this is.
But in generally speaking, most cases, market values are known. Yeah. What is sold, how much is the price in Tesco's, how much price in Sainsbury's, it doesn't change that much. So it's the estimate average.
Do you round up or round down?
Just an estimate, bro.
Okay.
I would say not to make it too complicated. Whatever, just choose a place which you think is the medium and value, not too much, not too low, and that'll be. I'm just trying
to look out for our brothers that have waswas.
Right. Yeah. So the way you do waswas is ignore the waswas and just do what I said. Just go to the normal. For example, if I
come back to the issue that one, like as an assumption.
If let me ask you a question: is Sainsbury's? You have Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Asda. Which one would you say was the higher level? Which one would you say is lower level? Which one would you say was the middle?
I think Asda is the lowest.
Okay.
Sainsbury's is the highest.
Choose Tesco's then.
Okay, the middle one. Okay,
that's it.
Okay, cool.
So, like I said, don't make it complicated. Yeah. It could be. Listen carefully. It could be that in actual reality, Sainsbury's is cheaper than Tesco's. But labats. You've done your ijtihad.
Yeah.
In your view, that's the balance, that's the medium.
Yeah.
Khalas.
And also just
because remember, it's a taqribi, it's an estimate, it's not a reality.
Right, that's my point. So there's some things which are taqribi and some are tahdidi, right? Some things that are
all of them are.
As in some ahkam are tahdidi, as in not necessarily in zakat. In other
money, zakat. I mean, I'm in terms of wealth, money, it's all estimate.
So right, okay, that's actually a benefit. So taqribi, guys, as in would be something that's speculative. There's a degree of speculation.
Approximation. You're getting close to something, but it's not exact.
But it's not exactly. But whereas, for example, tahdid, it has to be exactly that much. Like, I guess the amount that you give out is tahdidi, right? Yeah. It's like 2.5%, isn't it? It has to be minimum.
I mean, for example, let me give you an example. Just as an example, just to demonstrate how it's not that deep.
Yeah.
You have 1 kilogram of gold. That's a better example. You have 1 kilogram of gold. Taib. You say I want to pay zakat on it. How much do you pay? 2.5% of 1 kilogram of gold, which is whatever it is in grams. But bro, I want to pay that in pounds. I don't want to break off 2.5% of that
of the gold.
Okay, how much should I pay in pounds? Bro, what's the value of gold today? Well, I went to this website. It said this amount. I went to that website. It was that amount. It was this website. That you see, what I'm saying there's no actual value that we can say. Yeah, this is the value of gold. And this is too much. This is too less. It's taqribi.
Yeah.
Choose any one of them.
Like I stick to Google.
Yeah, just Google price of gold, bang.
Yeah,
that's it.
Okay, lovely. So we kind of digressed there. Look, I'm conscious that this might not be a very clean, organized, systematic lesson in zakat, right? The idea is obviously to answer a lot of your questions, but also to show you the nuances, because I really hope that you will go out and study this, and or find a person of knowledge that you can go to if you have specific nuances where you get stuck and just be like, Shaykh, like what's...
I mean, I have a whole video series.
I'm gonna link that at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But also, just to conclude, so we have the zakat on money, you have zakat on money equivalents, and you have zakat on, which most likely won't apply to most people here, what you farm. So if you farm certain types of grain or whatnot, when you harvest is the time you pay zakat.
Yeah.
And also there's zakat on animals, livestock.
Which again doesn't really apply to most people.
It doesn't apply to most people, yeah. So these are the 4 types. The 5th one, which the Hanabila have, which is basically a qiyas on honey. Yeah. Honey being like crops. When you harvest, when you take your honey, it's like your harvesting thing.
What about zakatul huli, like jewelry that's worn for...
Yeah, there's a big discussion on whether zakat is payable on jewelry, and
the way it's not jewelry that's stock. We're talking about, because generally speaking, things that you own that's not stock. Like, for example, if
you're a jewelry seller, then it's zakat now, regardless. It's like that's your own jewelry. Like
a woman who has gold, silver jewelry just for herself. Do you want her?
Yeah. So again, it comes down to the issue of there's a big discussion of it's on it or not. But what I would like to draw from that is when it comes to money and money equivalents. Why is there discussion? Why do some people say that there's no zakat on jewelry? I said simply because, although it is gold or silver, its intent is not money.
It's personal usage.
Yeah. So same thing. Likewise, I said before. Likewise, if you have something which is not gold or silver, but the intent is money, so you see, it's literally almost the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So. Me personally, my personal opinion is just pay the zakat on the jewelry anyway.
Just to be safe.
Because, well, mainly because gold and silver, even if you don't take it as money, it functions as money anyway. You could literally just heat up something in the oven and melt it down. You can, even when you buy gold jewelry, if you think about it, that's one of the interesting things about gold and silver, especially like gold markets in Arab countries. You see, I want that earring. They don't tell you your price. They put it on the scales.
Yeah. Because
it's still functioning
as money.
Its value is based on how you equate that thing, as opposed to like a phone. You don't weigh an iPhone and give you the value of the iPhone in grams, because it's not function as money. Anyway, so I would say it is a weaker view, but I mean ahwat, just give the zakat on the jewelry, and if you don't, and which is interesting though. Because some people, and I'm sure many women are like this, they are gold rich but fiat poor. Yeah. So they have gold, but they actually don't have money to pay zakat on it. Because if they had to pay zakat on it, maybe it's about 100 quid, 200 quid. They ain't got 100 quid, bro. They literally paycheck to paycheck. They ain't got no thing. And they say, but I'm not rich. But you are. You've got like 10k of gold. That's not a small thing. And it's because you can liquidate that gold at any point, any time. And the way you liquidate it is based on its value. So that's why it still functions as money, or you're wearing it, but it does still function as money, because if you can go to any shop on planet Earth and they'll look at that gold, they'll look at it as,
I'll take it.
And they'll take it, but they'll still weigh and look at the value of the gold and look at the price of gold on the market as well. So it still functions
as money.
And one side point as well, this is probably not really important, but the history of jewelry is money. As in the past, when people use shells and beads and bones, how do they carry this stuff around? You could put it in a bag, or you can put it on a string and wear it. People used to wear their money. I mean, they used to go marketplace, they take the thing off, take off a few beads, here's a few beads, put it back on again. It was a wallet.
Then I guess it became a status symbol over time to wear your wealth around your neck.
I could see it. You can see the guys have loads of money. But the point is that you could store your beads and your nuggets on a piece of string and wrap it around you, and it'd be your money.
Your wallet, basically.
It was an old school wallet in the past.
Okay, so just very quickly on this. So is it safe to say then, honey, which doesn't apply to most people, right? Livestock, which doesn't apply to most people. Farmed, crops don't apply to most people, right? And if you are happy to be in those industries, then we can go into that, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. But really, just the two things that we're talking about here is money or money equivalents, right? Okay, so just on the issue of money equivalents, just to clarify a few things here, because this is something that used to confuse me before as well, and I feel like it does confuse some people as well, is that just the difference between when something is stock for personal usage and when something is stock for the purpose of selling it one day.
Yeah,
what's the dabit? Like what's the differentiating factor between it? Because you don't want someone thinking that, I've got a car, that's pays zakat on it.
No, because it's not a money equivalent. You don't have a car to sell it.
What if he wants to sell it one day? He's bought it and he's using it, but he wants to sell it one day. He knows that I'm gonna sell this car one day.
No. That's not how he thinks. Well, maybe it is, but what I'm saying is, if you bought a car to sell the car, it's money. If you bought the car to use the car, knowing that later on it will have value,
and he will sell it,
but obviously, then that's not money. For example, things have value anyway.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that just because I have it, I'm going to sell it. It's mine.
So then I guess the differentiating factor here is going to be the intention
100%
to use versus the intention to sell.
No. So here's an example. I have actually an allotment. I have cars on the allotment. I'm going to sell these cars on the allotment, but I do drive them. As I like to drive flashy cars. So they're on the market to be sold as second-hand cars, for example. But when I go home, I drive one of them. So that you still pay zakat. I'm driving it. I'm using it. But it's clearly they're on allotment. The for sale sign is there. I'm selling it.
Okay.
Or I bought the car to fix it up to sell it. It's there. So my intent is to sell it. As opposed to the person who's bought the car, it is his. But he does know that if a guy says to him, I'll buy it off you, he can say, okay, I'll sell it to you. That's not, there's no intention there to sell it. The intention is to drive the car. It's his car. So there's a clear distinction. There is no ambiguity. If you bought something to sell it, then it's money. If you bought something to use it, but it can be sold, that's not money.
So what about houses, for example? People buy houses.
Same thing.
But they are living in the house. They're going to live in it for years. But they bought it because this is a good investment for the future.
No. If you bought the house to sell the house, it's urud tijara.
Even if I'm living in it for 10 years?
No, you live in it. That's you bought it to live in it. That's your house.
But if you bought it for the purpose of selling it,
then it's zakah.
Even if you haven't put it on the market.
I mean, if
You're
you
holding it.
So okay, you bought it to sell it when?
10 years from now, or you don't have a time limit. You just
It's not. In that case, again, you're confusing the potential of a thing and the intent of having the thing. For example, I have 10 houses, one in Turkey, one in Malaysia, one in UK, because I travel a lot. If I want to liquidate any one of them, I could.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy them to do that. I bought them to, when I go there, I have a house. When I go here, I have a house. I go here. Or I have 10 houses, all 9 of them is Airbnb, one of them I live in. They're now tools of trade. I use them to make money.
The ones on Airbnb have zakat, the one I live in doesn't.
No. There's no zakat on Airbnb houses. They're tools. It's like buying clippers to cut up someone's hair, or buying or buying a garage to fix cars. They're tools. They're not bought to sell.
So it's only when I'm using it as if I'm trying to hold my wealth and property, or I'm trying to purchase a property to sell it.
Yeah. Or another example, just to get the other side. So imagine I have lots of money in the bank. I don't trust the banks. I hate the banks. So I want to park my money somewhere else. So I move it from the fiat into the property. So at later time when I need it, I can liquidate. That's still money.
Okay.
Rather than park it in the bank, you park it into the house.
Okay.
So you can see the intentions here are quite distinct.
So I guess, so the fundamental thing it just revolves around is this thing money or a substitute for money? Whether it's stock that's going to be sold to purchase money, whether it's something that you're holding money in for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like a flip. People talk about flipping a house. I bought a house, fix it up, flip it. That's fully money.
That's fully money. Flipping cars.
Yeah.
Flip whips, bro.
So I bought this car to fix it up, bling it, add some bling.
He works for a supercar company, right? So those supercars, they're tools.
Tools how? As in you rent them?
Yeah, they rent the cars.
Yeah, that's a tool.
So they don't have to pay zakat on the cars.
Because why would you sell your tools?
Yeah, makes sense.
It's not a tool.
And if they want to sell the car one day, then at that point, it becomes urud tijara. It becomes stock. The day they change the intention, because now I want to sell it.
Yes and no, because the thing is, there's still the whole issue of the whole year and having a wealth. Even the time.
Yeah.
So he might have sold it before it's even time. But once he sold it and now he has a fiat, and now it's time to pay zakat, you pay zakat on it. But you get the gist.
Okay, lovely. So, okay, so...
by the way, there's one thing we skipped. We mentioned about the zakat on wealth and wealth equivalents, but what's the threshold?
Yes.
The threshold is about, it used to be £4,500, but now it's gone up to like £5,000 now because of inflation. So it's about £5,000 now.
So you're basing that on gold?
Yeah, so you always look at the price of gold, not silver.
Why not silver?
Not silver.
How come?
We don't have time because I know everyone's looking at the time, but on my zakat series, I explain, the question was, when it mentions if you have 4 camels, the zakat on that is 1 sheep. Or you have 40 sheep, the zakat on that is 1 sheep. Are these numbers arbitrary numbers, or is it actually a purpose behind these numbers? Is it the value or just a number? So what I demonstrated is that the 40 camels, the 4 camels, the 40 sheep, these are, and the 80, so the 20 dinar and the 200 dirham, they all were the exact same value.
At the time of the Prophet?
Yes.
But not now.
So the point is, so when Mr. Allah said if you have 4 camels.
So just to, in case anyone missed it, so what we're talking about here is the threshold
of paying zakat. So if you have 4 camels, you pay zakat on those 4 camels.
By giving 1 sheep.
Well, 1 sheep. But if you have 3 camels, no zakat. Because it's below the threshold. So you said that the 4 camels is the threshold.
Yeah.
If you have 40 sheep, that's the threshold. If you have 39, no zakat. But if you have 40 and above, that's the threshold.
Yeah. Because I guess 10 sheep are worth 1 camel.
Hold on. But if you look at the value of 40 sheep, it's equal to the value of 4 camels. Which is equal to the value of 20 dinar, which is equal to the value of 200 dirham.
Which is, so dirham is silver, dinar is gold.
Gold, yeah.
Right? So once you have 20 gold coins at the time of the Prophet, then you would have to give zakat.
Yes. But the price of silver has been decimated over the years.
Yeah.
So the price of gold compared to the camels and the sheep is practically the same as it was then as it is today. Practically the same. But the price of sheep...
Okay, so 20 gold coins...
is about 85 grams of gold.
Is equivalent to 4 camels, equivalent to 40 sheep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not betting.
But
silver has just...
But silver's price... So what that means is... So this is another example. Like, for example, if you look at the hadith of Aisha, which you mentioned the mahr of the wives of Mr. Allah, she mentioned in silver.
Yeah.
So if you actually take that quantity of silver and look at it today, it's about £500.
Yeah.
But if you actually use the gold value at the time, it's about £5,000.
£5,000.
Because, so the question is, so what did they actually pay? Did they pay the value of 500 or the value of 5,000?
It would be the value of gold.
It would be the value of gold.
Because they're all of the same value.
Not just that. What the wives of the Prophet received in mahr was greater than the threshold of zakah, as in they were zakatable. They were rich. They had enough money to buy 4 camels. They had enough money to buy 40 sheep. They had enough money. They had more. Whereas you can't buy even 1 camel with 500 quid.
Yeah.
You can barely buy 2 sheep today with 500 quid. You can definitely buy 40 sheep with more than 5k, but you're not buying that. So basically, with 5k, you are still well and truly poor in today's standards. But in gold, you are still in the threshold. So when you're calculating zakat, you must use the value of gold, not silver. Some ulama say use silver because it's better for the poor person. But that just contradicts what we just said here.
But Shaykh, don't you think that if we then take that view, then most people won't even be paying zakat? Because that will probably be because most people are not rich. Right. So then it's like...
It's not the fault of Islam. That's just...
not the fault of Islam, but the thing is that the way that the price of... It's like the price of silver, the value of silver has dropped, but also the value of what a man takes home has also dropped. So it's like our wealth is proportionate to the value of silver in terms of... So
put it this way. If you had the nisab, if you had the threshold for zakah at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you could live many months, probably even years, just on your savings.
Yeah.
Because you're rich.
Yeah.
This day and age, you can't live literally 1 month with 500 quid. So how could you possibly be... So when Mr. Allah sent Muaawiyah to Yemen, he said, take from the rich and give to the poor. If we take silver as being the threshold of zakah, we are actually saying...
Take from the poor.
We're actually saying whoever has £500 in the bank, they are considered rich.
But if they... Isn't a rich person...
Is there anyone on planet Earth who says that 500 quid is rich?
No, I see your point. Do you think it would just be safer though? If you have it...
No, I would say if you have silver...
Yeah.
As an actual value, as ta'abbud, you give the zakah on the silver based on the silver value, as it was mentioned in the hadith.
Yeah.
But if you have fiat, if you have Bitcoin, if you have any other things,
Base it on gold.
Base it on gold, because that's equivalent. So if you look at all the threshold of all the things that people spend at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had certain values. For example, the house that they purchased, the mahar that they had, all these things had equivalence. They had value. So when this sharia was given to us, it's either this was number is ta'abbudi, we don't have no idea what was intended, or it was based on a hikmah, a known illah.
Wisdom, reasoning.
So what I'm saying is that it wasn't a mistake that the value of camels, sheep, gold and silver was actually the same value. It was not a mistake. You can't just haphazardly have, by accident, happen to have all the exact same threshold. So we have to look at what was the equivalence in terms of how they can live. So it's a long discussion that mentioned in the video, and maybe I haven't got much time to discuss it, but that's my position, that you have to take the value of gold in all things you evaluate, and it comes to Islamic value. If you want to say the value of this, your value of that in Islam, based on how it was at the time of Messenger of Allah, you have to look at the gold. Because look at silver, you'll be distorted.
So then what you're saying is that once your wealth reaches the value of
the threshold in gold,
then
you are eligible to pay zakat.
Which is 85 grams of gold.
Which is about $5,000 now.
Which is about $5,000. So in simple terms, just to not confuse everyone, once you've reached $5,000,
then you have to wait a year on that.
That wealth has to stay for a year.
Yeah. So once you have this threshold, then you have to maintain that threshold for 1 year.
Okay.
Islamic year. Not. And that's the time you pay zakat. So it's not like any time where it's not just Ramadan time you pay zakat. As soon as you pass that threshold, then the year after that in Islamic calendar you pay zakat. And that's when you have to figure it out. I mean, some people ask, how do I figure that stuff out? Very simple. Look at your bank balance. You get paid a certain day every month, maybe the 5th of every month or the 4th. So look on that day, is the bank balance above $5,000? If the answer is yes, do you maintain that threshold throughout the year? If the answer is yes, pay zakat the following year.
And it has to be based on the Islamic calendar month.
Yes.
So you got to work out the day when you hit the threshold, i.e. when your wealth went to 5K or above, or whatever the value of gold is. If you watch the video 10 years from now, it's probably going to inflate, right? But you just got to look at what's 85 grams of gold in whatever currency that you're using at that time. Yeah. And then work out what was the date you reached that threshold.
Only you have to do it once. Once you reach that threshold, then that's it. That's your date.
Inshallah.
Well, as long as you're long as you don't become poor again.
and then you just wait. For example, it was the first Muharram, second Muharram. Like for example, for me, it's the 30th of Shawwal.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is the month after Ramadan. And every year,
that's your zakat.
That's my zakat. Inshallah ta'ala. Beautiful. Guys, just very quickly before we get back into the discussion, we have 2 solutions for you depending on who you are. So number 1, if you're a business owner that's already making money and you already have a business infrastructure that you want to scale, then we provide these solutions for you guys on a done for you basis. Our team, alhamdulillah, can build out these systems for you inside of your business. You build out the tracking, the ads, set up the ad strategy, and so on and so forth. And for those of you who are new to business and you can't afford like a done for you service where we build all this out, we've got an educational platform called the Righteous and Rich Skills Academy where you can learn these essential skills that you need for business, marketing with all of its sub-disciplines, and of course all of the other areas of business such as fulfillment, management, sales, branding, and their sub-disciplines as well. And it's extremely affordable. We wanted to make it so that you guys don't have to ever spend $5,000 on a course ever again, right? That's just on one topic. Here you have a database and you unlock a new course every single month. Elite practitioners from these different areas of business around the world are teaching on there alongside myself and the rest of our team. So you can check out the links below. With that said, let's get back to the discussion. Okay, guys. If we look different today, it's because we're recording the second part of this podcast on a different day. So, Shaykh, what we've talked about right now is we've talked about the threshold, the nisab, right? Yeah. At which point do we pay zakat on certain types of wealth?
Yeah.
Right? And we primarily focused on money and money equivalents, right? So that could be gold, silver, fiat currency, Bitcoin, whatever, right? And money equivalents would be anything that you're selling, stock that you're selling.
Yeah, so the things that was money, you've temporarily placed it into something in order to bring it back to money.
Yeah.
Immediately.
So then 2.5% of what you have on the day of the zakat is due is how much you pay from that, right? Okay, beautiful. Now we need to talk about the timeline, right?
When do you pay that?
When do you pay it? So obviously we have something called the hawl, which is the Islamic which is basically 12 months, right? 12
The year,
months.
basically. The 1 year cycle.
1 year cycle. So break this down to us, because there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding around this. One of being like most people, I notice they do it based on, I'm going to do it in Ramadan.
Yep. Which is a big mistake.
Right. Well, why would that be a mistake?
Because poor people are poor throughout the year, not just in Ramadan, number one. And number two, that's not how the Sharia was defined.
Yeah.
So therefore, if the Sharia says that your time for zakat is at the beginning of the year, and you're paying your zakat on the 9th month of the year, therefore you're 9 months late.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're doing that on a yearly basis. Every year you're sinful.
So you cannot arbitrarily just choose when you want to pay your zakat.
Yeah.
Unless you're paying in advance, right?
Yes and no. If you're paying in advance, you're actually making your life a bit more complicated, because you have to pay twice. So you're paying it early. So let's start from the beginning. When do you actually pay? Let's deal with the early and the late later. So when do you actually pay? So person number A, he has no money. So therefore he doesn't pay any zakah. And that's a very important point. A lot of people, they forget these caveats. Even the topic of hijrah, for example, that's a classic example. When people talk about hijrah, the importance of hijrah, the obligation of hijrah, they forget that hijrah is not even a conversation for someone who's poor.
Yeah.
If you can't make hijrah, you're not in a conversation.
Yeah.
So there's no need to talk about, bro, but I can't. Bro, we're not talking to you. You're not part of the conversation. Yeah. Likewise, zakah, if you're not eligible to pay zakah, if you haven't got the money to pay zakah, you're not even in the conversation.
Okay.
It's just something that is, when it comes, you can discuss that. But if you have no money, you're not in the conversation. So you don't have to save up for it. You don't have to look forward to it. You're not in the conversation.
Yeah.
So that's you. And then you decide to save up for whatever reason. You want to save up to move, do a business, just for the sake of having a safety buffer in case things happen. Whatever reason you want to save money. And there comes a threshold whereby your savings would now qualify you as being rich. The definition of rich. And I say the definition of rich because of the hadith when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Muaawiyah to Yemen. He says, "تُخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ فَتُرَدُّ إِلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ." Take from the rich and give to their poor. And that was the definition of those who are rich. You take 2.5% of their wealth and you give to those who are poor, i.e. those who are not in the category of being rich. And that was the wasf. That was a description of those who have nisab. So therefore we can extrapolate, we can understand that those who have this threshold, you are now considered shar'an as being from the aghniya.
Yeah.
You're rich. So the question is so the first part is, what is that value? What is that amount? Once you reach that threshold, how long do you have to maintain that to now pay zakah? So there's 2 points. The first point is, which I think we mentioned in the last video, the first point is the monetary value. So 85 grams of gold, that is the monetary threshold. We mentioned already before that.
So if you don't have gold, it would be
the equivalent.
So you just work out how much 80 grams of gold,
85 grams of gold.
85 grams, of gold is in the currency that you have.
Whatever currency it is.
Right? And then based on that, you now know.
Except for silver. Because silver, I think it's 595 grams of silver. And there's a distinction. So the nisab of silver is 595 grams.
The
threshold, yeah. And then the nisab or the threshold of gold is 85. And there was a time when that value, 595 grams of gold, was actually equal in value to 85 grams of, silver was equal to 85 grams of gold. So 595 grams of silver was equal to the value of 85 grams of gold at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fast forward 1,400 years, the price of silver has dropped drastically compared to gold. So that means 595 grams of silver is equivalent approximately to 500-600 pounds. But 85 grams of gold is equivalent to like 5,000 pounds. So there's a big difference now. There's a disparity of 10x. 10 times, so silver is 10 times cheaper than it was back at the time of Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you're looking at fiat currency, pounds, dollars, Bitcoin, would you choose the threshold of silver, or would you choose the threshold of gold? Now, there is difference of opinion amongst the scholars. Some use the value of silver, and they say that the reason why they say that is it's better for the poor, meaning
more people will be given zakat.
More people will be given the zakah, and therefore more zakah will be taken and given to the people. I don't agree with that. I think it should be the value of gold, a higher threshold. Now, why do I say that? Because if you look at, because I did a bit of research on the topic, and I have some zakah videos you can put in the description below on YouTube. But my question I wanted to ask was, were the values set by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by Allah at the time of when Islam was being revealed? Was that an arbitrary value or number? Meaning, was 595 grams of silver just a number, irrelevant of the value, just a number? Was the 85 grams of gold just a number? Were the 5 camels, and by the way, that was a correction from last video, it was 5 camels, not 4. Were the 5 camels just an arbitrary number? Were the 40 sheep just an arbitrary number? Or was there actually a value understood at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that made it that value? And if you do the research and you look at the text, which I have presented in my video, you'd find that the threshold of silver was equal to the threshold of gold, and was also equal to the threshold of sheeps and the threshold of camels. They all were exactly the same value. So you can understand from that the so basically that nisab, it wasn't actually just these numbers. It was actually a value. It's like saying, imagine, I think they say in UK universal credit. They say universal credit, if you have savings more than £15,000, I think it is, £15,000, you're no longer eligible for universal credit. Now, you might say, but I don't have £15,000. So therefore, am I eligible for universal credit? They would say, no. Do you have any crypto? And say, yeah, I've got £20,000 worth of Ethereum, or I've got £50,000 worth of Bitcoin. And I say, yeah, same thing. So they don't care if it's £15,000 in actual pounds. They're looking at a threshold of value.
Yeah.
So wherever it occurs.
So you could have had a property. That's worth 15k.
I mean, universal credit, I don't know. If property is included, I would assume so.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, in terms of a time Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the zakah is on cattle, it's on money and money equivalents, and that actually was a value. So fast forward to today, why did I choose gold rather than silver when these two have diverged? Because if you look at what you could have bought with gold at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or silver, you could have bought the equivalent of 5 sheep, 40 sheep, 5 camels, a certain number of houses, horses, whatnot. There's a value of things. And if you look at 85 grams of gold today, it's about the same. You could buy the approximately the same number of horses and camels and cars and whatnot. It's about the same thing.
So there was a constant in value.
Yeah.
But now there's a disparity between silver and
gold.
So you're saying that gold is just sticking to the constants in the value, the consistency in terms of value. It's going to be.
The way I like to look at it is that, what could you do with that gold? That's the question I wanted to ask. Okay, what could you do?
Buy and sell, buy things, trade things.
Yeah, but what could you buy? So if I had 85 grams of gold,
things are expensive.
At the time Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what could you buy at his time?
Oh, okay.
You could buy lots of things. Yeah. You can buy meat to eat every day for about a year, for example.
So you're rich, basically.
Yeah, but how? So for example, like I said, if you had 85 grams of gold at his time, what could you do? I could buy this amount of clothing. There's things you can look at what you could buy.
About 5 camels.
5 camels, yeah.
You can start a farming business.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Whereas today, your 595 grams of silver,
can't do really much with it.
You can't even buy 1 camel, let alone 5.
Or a car.
I mean, car's hard to evaluate because the car is a bit different than a camel. But I'm just saying that from the things you could buy then, you can't do the same now. So basically, in terms of equivalence, gold is more representative of what was considered rich at their time.
Okay.
Where silver is no longer representative of what is rich at that time. So some may say, okay, what do you say about the scholars say that it's better for the poor? And more people are given zakah, so therefore more zakah is collected, and therefore more ability to give to the poor. I would say it's the opposite. Because you've now made the threshold so low that more people are given zakah, then therefore you have people who actually might be deserving of receiving it and are asked to give it.
Makes sense. Okay.
So imagine, so in terms of like a person only has £1,000 to his name.
Yeah.
That's what he has. And he's managed to maintain that for a year. He actually be required to give money based on that. But he can, with that, he's probably can just about buy, you could say, a sheep or two. Yeah, he hasn't got much. Nothing near 40 sheep, which would consider you a rich person back at that time. He can barely get a sheep or two.
I checked, sheep's like about £200.
Yeah, so maybe a couple of sheep. So like maybe 5 sheep.
Oh, there's still a lot, right? So 10 times. It's about 4K.
It's a lot of sheep.
It's 4K. It's 4K for for 40 sheep. So 10. 10 times 200 is 2,000. It's about 8K.
Yeah, so it's like 5 to 7.
Yeah.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
You are nowhere near that threshold. You're like almost a tenth
Makes sense.
of what a rich person would be at the time. So therefore, rather than making you a person who's eligible to receive zakah, you're now a person who's given zakah. So you actually put more stress on the poor. Let me just say it one more time. That's just for everyone to get that. Rather than helping the poor,
you put more stress on them.
You put more stress on the poor by considering them now rich.
That's actually very interesting.
But we've gone a bit off a tangent. So back to the issue of the two parts of eligibility of giving zakah. So first, you have to have that amount. That amount being £5,000-6,000. Yeah. Once you have that, you have to maintain that.
So we're saying 5-6 now, but it's important that you check.
Oh yeah.
85 grams of gold is in your currency on the day, because obviously it fluctuates.
I mean, when I first made my zakah video,
it's 3K.
It was about 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah.
Has gone up by 1.5K already, just in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to be by the time this video even goes on air. So, and then top of that, you have to maintain that value, that threshold of savings, by the way, for a whole year.
Okay, so this is where I feel like a lot of people also get confused now. Is when you say maintain, like what does that mean? So I've got £5,000 today, and I hold it for 3 months. In that third month, I dropped to £1,000.
And then next month you went back up to 5.
Yeah.
So you start again.
Yep. So every time you drop below the threshold, the yearly cycle
starts again.
Only when you cancels out. It starts again when you go back up.
Yep.
So
unless you're Hanafi.
Oh, okay.
Hanafis don't consider momentary dips.
Oh, okay.
As in, if it's gone down and back up again, that's not a problem. You're fine.
Okay.
Maybe cash flow issues or whatnot.
Okay.
But generally speaking, the way I look at it is that the reason why we have to maintain a strict balance above the threshold is because it demonstrates surplus cash. As you didn't need it. Yeah, you didn't need it. I never used it. It's just sitting there. If you dipped it, that means you're using it. That means you actually need it to live.
I really love how you've thought about this. Like this is tadabbur, isn't it? This is tafakkur. يعني في آيات الله في أحكام سبحانه. It's like, oh no, honestly, this is really like what it was. What this Quran was sent for, like.
Well, it's about basically understanding the reality of life. Because the thing is, again, if you look at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their lives were very different.
Yeah.
For example, they never had a bank balance. I mean, they had their wealth wherever they stored their wealth, however they had it. But the idea of monthly wages, paying to your bank, paying your bills on a monthly, these things. It was more, everything was hand in hand.
Yeah.
They didn't have direct debits, standing orders, all these kind of things. So for example, another issue. Imagine you've had the threshold the whole time. And in the middle of it, so your wages comes on a Monday. But on a Friday, direct debit came out, took you below the threshold.
Yeah.
It's 2 days gone. So in that scenario, the Hanafi would say, that's a momentary thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Whereas technically speaking, you've dipped below the threshold.
Which means you're on the verge.
Well, you were on the verge. Exactly. You're at the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
So you're not really rich. You're dancing. Dancing in the periphery of being rich. Rich means you are established. That 5,000 is just it's like a side thing. It's like if it disappeared and then came back again, it hasn't affected you. Whereas if you're literally going backwards and forwards, you're still in that dependency. It's actually money. I need it. I need that money. So I wouldn't consider that. I would be strict and saying, look, if you had that threshold, and you haven't touched it because you didn't need it the whole year, then you're from the aghniya. Definitely, clearly from aghniya, because you haven't used it. Which answers another question, which people say, I do have £5,000 at the beginning of every month, but throughout the month I'm using, and then next pay is back again. Yeah, because that £5,000 you have, that's your spending.
That's your spending.
That's not surplus.
That's not surplus, yeah.
So you're not from the aghniya.
So then, if you go down the threshold, below the threshold, you now stop calculating the whole.
You're not from the aghniya anymore.
And then the moment you've got any money above the threshold in the bank account,
that's the date.
Start counting straight away.
Yep. So imagine the first of Jumada al-Ula.
Yeah.
You had thing. Yeah. Then the third of Jumada al-Ula, you went down, and then the seventh Jumada al-Ula.
Jumada al-Ula is
one of the months of
the Islamic calendar.
And then the 7th of Jumada al-Ula, you're back above the threshold. Yeah. That's the time you look at the threshold, the 7th.
So the reason why this is really important is because very, 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 very seldom do I come across a brother who's actually got money, and I ask him, when did you reach the nisab? They don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, this is hugely problematic. Like, as in, and you know, one of the things that I heard from one of my Shaykh was really beautiful. He's saying, you know, like how the Sharia puts all of these ahkam in place, is to cause you to constantly be considering Allah in all of your dealings, like in your money, like as in money's coming in, right? And I have to just be attentive to, okay, when did I go above the threshold? Okay, cool.
You know, if you think about it, it's like dhikr. It is literally like dhikr.
It is dhikr.
Yeah.
It's a type of dhikr. Yeah. It's caused you to remember Allah in your wealth. Okay, I just went above the threshold.
It's muraqabah.
Yeah. Right? And then, and that's so beautiful, because then if you have that type of mindset, you're always going to be thinking, is my money halal? Is it not?
100%.
Should I be giving sadaqah? Should I not? You know? Like,
it's actually actively purifying your intention and your heart and your actual dealings.
Allahumma barik. So then it's like, okay, cool, bro. You have to then be watching for that threshold. I went above it. What's the Islamic day? The Islamic calendar date that I went above it. Because remember, there's 11 days difference between the solar calendar and the Islamic lunar calendar, which means if you pay your zakat on the solar calendar, the Gregorian calendar, on the same day every year, you're paying 11 days late.
Yeah.
2 years later, you're paying 21 days late.
Yeah.
3 years later, you're paying 33 days late.
I mean, but the good thing is, alhamdulillah, technology has made it easy for us.
Yeah.
If everyone's got iPhone, go to the calendar part settings of the app, and they have alternative calendars. Just change the Hijri.
Right there.
Yeah. And therefore, when you go to the calendar, any Gregorian date, it has side next to it the Islamic date. And so you can always go back any time in the history, and you can look at what was the exact date.
18th of Safar. You know what you can even do, bro? Just go into Google and type in 28th of July 2013. What was the 28th of July 2013 in terms of Islamic calendar?
You might even work by ChatGPT as well. I haven't tried it on ChatGPT, but you might even work with ChatGPT.
Yes, I was using ChatGPT to calculate my wife's zakat the other day. So look, point being is that it's very important. And otherwise, brothers, I'm telling you, you know what's long? You know what's long? And it's because I've done it with so many brothers. Well, you know what's long? Is we have to go back over a decade of bank statements, 2 decades of bank statements.
Yeah.
Just to work out, and you know what it is, because you don't remember. Did you go above the threshold? Did you stay above it? Did you drop? So you have to literally analyze bank statements of decades.
Imagine you got more than one bank.
And imagine you got assets in crypto and in this and that. And how, you know what? I can't even imagine how you do that for stocks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, let's just say you had a shop once upon a time. You had stock that you sold once, right? Dates or perfumes or whatever. And now it's gone. But you had it once upon a time.
Yeah.
So how do you? Then you have to start estimating and guessing and.
But the joke is, could you imagine a person who is constantly making muraqabah, constantly monitoring?
Okay, monitoring.
Yeah, constantly monitoring his wealth. does he have the threshold? Can you imagine that person still earning haram?
No.
It's impossible.
No.
How could you possibly be looking and making sure that you're above the threshold while stealing haram? That level of observation and monitoring your wealth means you're also indirectly monitoring how halal your wealth is.
Why? Because there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyiba."
Exactly.
Allah is pure and He doesn't accept anything except that is pure.
Yeah.
So this money that you're monitoring the threshold of zakat that you're going to give, if it's not pure and you know, Allah's not going to accept it from you.
Exactly.
So it makes you think, well, I
mean, even the example of the stock, we mentioned about money equivalents. So if you have stock, what's the value of that stock on that day? Is it above or below the threshold, like you mentioned? Can you imagine a guy working out the value of his bags of weed? He's like, yeah, I got this much bag of weed, that much value, I'll pay zakat. Bro, that question doesn't even make sense. How could you possibly be evaluating drugs? How much zakat you pay on that? That is like the worst. So the point is, just by paying attention, you're making sure your money is halal. It's impossible. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. You're working in the bank. HSBC or NatWest is paying you on a monthly basis. And you're looking at this riba money coming in. So, yeah, I pay zakat on it. Bro, you're having a laugh. So people who say, oh, it's long and it's difficult. Bro, the whole purpose here is to force you to do righteousness.
Yeah.
Same thing with salah. 5 times a day.
It's not even difficult though. You make it difficult through ignorance.
And laziness.
It's wallahi, it's not difficult. I've sat with people who've got accountants that can just do the job for them.
Yeah.
But literally you could take your 10, 20, 30 years of bank statements. You pay your accountant so much money just to calculate your taxes that you're going to give to some shaitan, right? Bro, just tell him, just pay him. Here's 500,000. However much it takes, just go through it and just calculate with my...
And the joke is, tax is infinitely more complicated than zakat. Yeah. Just 2.5% of whatever you have at the time. That brings us to the next point here.
But on that note, if anyone's interested in getting a financial, someone to manage your finances in your accounts, there's a brother who we work with, and Allahumma barik, he has an accounting background, but not only that, he's also got a very, very strong background in terms of just generally like managing finances in a business, cutting costs, creating profit and loss statements, and also monitoring zakat. So he does it for us, for our business, alhamdulillah. And if anyone's interested, I'll put his details below. So if you can just make sure you put Nabil's details below. His name's Nabil. So in case anyone's interested, like, this shows the importance of these type of things.
Yeah. So we've dealt with the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, it's about $5,000, but it could be more than that. And the joke is as well. That's another thing is that especially if you're a woman, this is more a case if you're a woman than a man. Mm-hmm. We take a collective approach. Mm-hmm. We don't separate how much you have in gold and fiat. Meaning, I've got £3,000 worth of gold. Mm-hmm. I've got £3,000 worth of fiat. Mm-hmm. I'm not below the threshold because I don't have £5,000 of any one of them. Mm-hmm. I look at collectively.
Yeah. So you can bring your wealth together.
Yeah.
Stocks.
So I mean, here's an example of a scenario which is again which more affects women than men. A sister, she looked at her bank account for the last year. Mm. The minimum she's had is about 500 quid, and the maximum she's had is about £1,000 and she's been between that for about a year. Does she pay zakat?
On that note,
no. But she has about £4,500 worth of gold from her wedding. Yeah. She's definitely from Ahl Zakah.
And she's not okay. And that you talk from the angle of zakat al-huli or?
Yeah, I mean, because like we discussed before,
zakat on jewelry.
The zakat on jewelry, I hold the opinion that just pay zakat on the jewelry because it's considered to be something you can easily put back into money. Yeah. As in, yeah, you're wearing it, but it's easily put back into money. Yeah. And to get into the idea that zakat on jewelry, not jewelry, it seems to be a khilaf, which is, although it does have some weight to it, on the safe side, you have the gold, just to give it. But the point is, I call this, if I had this funny phrase, she is gold rich but fiat poor. Mm. As in 500 quid, is that all she has? She's technically poor, but she has gold, bruv.
Yeah, so she's not really.
So if push comes to shove, if all the money she has is gone, and she needs money, bro, there's shops that will just take that gold easy and just convert that back. It's like that, nothing. No, they just put it onto the scales, they tell you how much it is, and that's it. You got money, you got cash. It is so simple to get your jewelry back into gold. It's simple.
Yeah.
Unlike a car, a house, you're looking at probably months, weeks to get that sold.
Yeah.
Gold, walk to the shop, by the end of the day you have your cash. So it's very simply a cash store or a store of wealth. So so you've decided someone who is above the threshold, they are rich. And sometimes that could be even more complicated. Imagine a sister has £6,000 worth of gold jewelry, but she has no money. So she really is fiat poor, and every year she has to pay zakah. She has to find the money on this gold because the gold is there. She doesn't want to sell her wedding gold, does she? So she has to find 2.5%. So it could be a bit of a challenge, but yeah, that is something you have to consider. That you could, especially sisters, they could actually be from the people of zakah, although they don't feel like they are because they're not earning much, not have much savings, but the gold is still there. So you have the threshold. You've had it for a whole year. Now it's time to pay. And how do you pay? As you wish. You could pay it from the gold, you could pay it from the fiat, pay from the Bitcoin you have, or you can give from all. Gold would be more complicated because how do you cut gold? How do you break the gold down into smaller pieces? It's a bit more difficult. Or you end up having is someone who their gold savings eats away at their fiat savings. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they've got lots of gold, but they can't liquidate that gold. They can't convert that gold into fiat.
So they just keep spending from their
other things. So basically, their money savings keeps them getting decreased because of their gold saving.
So you know what's actually amazing? One of the wisdoms I heard behind why zakat exists actually is to stop people hoarding wealth. So you can take that wealth and use it to generate more wealth.
Yeah. So I've heard that.
Even like the orphan, the Prophet ﷺ said to the wakil of the orphan's wealth to use it, otherwise zakat will eat it up.
Yeah, I think that was a statement of Umar. But
Okay.
I think so. I'm not too sure, but I've heard that, and I've actually debated against that. And let me explain why. It gives the impression that saving, it kind of demonizes saving. And I think that's a byproduct of Keynesian economics, which is the opposite. Keynesian economics says that look, what you just said, hoarding money is counterproductive for the economic activity, and actually praises money lending and interest, spending on debt, not on savings. Whereas if you look Islamically, from the Islamic economic model, we don't encourage debt. We encourage saving and building capital. I mean, for example, you want to be a businessman. You want to do investment. How do you do that without saving?
Yeah, of course, you need to save.
So if we know Islam,
but saving for an objective, right? But I mean, saving for saving's sake.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? That's that. So for example,
when Allah says, "Alladhina yuhibbuna al-mala hubban jam'a."
No. See, that's the issue. They love the money, not having the money. So you see, let me give you an example. You want to start a business doing Airbnb. That's your model. You've looked at the research, you've seen how it can work. You want to provide a service of temporary housing. To get into that, there's a minimum threshold that requires you having savings.
Yeah.
It might take you a while to get there.
But you're saving for an objective, right? But I'm talking about the concept of just saving for saving.
No. But no one does that. No one saves for the sake of saving.
Okay, so
every saving has an objective. It might be a defined objective. It might be ambiguous. I don't know what I want to do with it yet.
But then, for example, once someone's reached, for example, 100 million in terms of net worth, and he's telling you, I don't need to work ever again to live the type of life I want.
Yep.
But he keeps working because he wants to become a billionaire. He wants more money.
Yeah.
So is he not just saving for saving's sake?
No, it's great. That's what you do is great.
I understand it's great if he's going to use the money.
No. It's great if he just leaves it, holds it. Why is it great? It's great because him collecting more and more money means that there's more and more money to be given in zakah.
That's not right, but I'm saying it's not. You can give it in zakat. You can also give it in sadaqah. You can build masajid.
Yeah, right. Yes. And this is the caveat. This is the difference. Right. Where I wanted to clarify my objection to this idea of hoarding. What I agree. Let's define what I agree. I agree that if you have money and you don't use it fi sabilillah, that's lost opportunity.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that was my point.
Yeah. But is that necessarily a sin? Is lost opportunity a sin?
No.
Exactly. So it's like think this way. I'm saying it's mubah. It's just you could, if you want to do it, it's fine.
Unless you have an intention where it's like you just
no intention. No intention. It's just sitting there.
Just sitting there.
It's mubah. It's permissible. But what would be better? What's the mustahab in that scenario?
To spend.
Sadaqah.
Yeah.
Business, trade. That's the mustahab.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying that this
that business is gonna ultimately make you more money.
Hold on. But what I don't like is moving that mubah down the level to makruh by demonizing hoarding. You know what I'm saying? So you made hoarding, quote unquote, whatever that means, in the category.
Hoarding is like a bad word though. From
yeah. Hoarding. So hoarding, ihtikar.
Yeah.
In Islam, it's actually prohibited to do ihtikar, which basically means like you have vast amounts of land, farmland, and now your harvest is like you got tons and tons and tons of wheat.
Monopoly?
No.
Okay.
You got tons and tons of wheat, barley, rice, and you have now a warehouse full, mumtalit, with this rice and barley. And just leave it there. Why'd you leave it there? Because I want to make the price go higher.
Oh, okay.
See the word. I'm hoarding the money, keeping it back from the demand from the marketplace, so it affect the price. So that when the price goes up, and then I bring it onto the market. Yeah, that's definitely right. Your actions are 100% harming the market because you're not bringing it onto the market. You're I won't say facade, but you're creating what's called a supply shock. You're reducing supply to increase the thing. Like what happened in during COVID. What happened was things didn't delivered, so things had to go up.
Yeah.
Not because they weren't available, but because they just weren't being delivered. It was a supply shock. So here's an example. But with money is actually different. Ironically, listen carefully. This is counterintuitive. Money is actually the opposite. Here's one video. There's one video on YouTube when there's one Jewish guy. He does lots of traveling. He's ginger beard. He does a lot of traveling different places. Does little reviews of different places. And he went to Brunei, and he slated Brunei. I mean, that's one reason why I don't like him. Oh, this is an authoritarian state and blah, blah, blah. And this guy, he's the 6th richest man in the world. And if he just gave a 10% of what he's worth to the people, that will help people out. And blah, 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 blah. He's trying to build a righteous. And I thought to myself, that would be a disaster. Listen carefully.
What would be a disaster if he gave his money?
If he gave 10% of his money to the people.
Who, the Sultan of Brunei?
Yeah.
Why would that be a disaster?
Think about it.
Is he 6th richest man in the world?
I think 6th or 36th, but he's up there.
How did he get all that peas? Like?
Hold on.
Oh, I wanted this like.
It wasn't Bitcoin, that's for sure. But let's do the maths. Let's do the maths. Yeah. My man's got something like 36 or 30, some massive billions or whatever of money, his own capital. He just dumps like 2 billion in everyone's pocket, everyone's bank account. Everyone just gets this free money. Yeah. Okay, great. What do they do with it? They go out and spend, bruv. They go out and buy and buy and buy. What happens when people just go and buy everything until there's almost none left? What happens to the price of things?
It goes up.
Okay. Yeah. Price of things go up because there's money everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. When the money they got spent is now gone.
Now the prices remain up. People don't have the money to buy it anymore.
You see that?
Yeah.
So him dumping that cash into people's pockets causes inflation. So ironically, him keeping that money out of circulation actually helps their currency. It's counterintuitive. You don't think about that. You think, wait, why has he been hoarding money? But that's the joke. Him actually keeping that money out of circulation prevents inflation, which is not a good thing. Unless you're suggesting inflation is a good thing. It actually preserves the purchasing power of his thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he can't do good things with his money. Yeah. He can build roads. He can use that money for infrastructure. There you go. He can do infrastructure, build roads, invest in. Just to give it to people, you're saying. But just to give people like that, I mean, there's
it breeds entitlement as well.
Entitlement, lots of things. But By the way, I'm not demonizing sadaqah, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that someone mentioned to me that when, Musa Mansa, the richest man that ever lived, that apparently when he went to make Hajj, he was given sadaqah
on the journey.
And that price apparently it caused inflation all the way there.
Oh, really? Did it? Is that true?
Yeah. So it was said. That he affected the economy of everywhere he went.
Yes. I heard. Yeah, he changed the economy.
Yeah, because there was money people had money that came out of nowhere. So that caused. Anyway, the point is, it's not straightforward. Money is not food.
Okay.
If I gave you food, what would you do with it? Consume it.
Yeah, and then it's gone.
Whereas money in the circulation, it does certain things. It's not consumable.
Yeah.
It remains. Anyway, so we've gone a bit off tangent, to be honest. But back to the point. So nisab is about 5,000. Mm-hmm. You have it for about a year. Mm-hmm. Then you're now from Ahlul Zakah. If you pay the Zakah on that date, whatever that date is. Then how do you pay it? So if you have gold, you pay 2.5% of that gold. Mm-hmm. If you have fiat, 2.5% of that fiat. Mm-hmm. If you have Bitcoin, 2.5% of that Bitcoin.
Oh, you bring it all together?
Well, hold on. If you have a mixture of the lot, you could choose any one of them to pay the total amount, or you could just pay 2.5% of each one of them. However way you want to do it, it's entirely up to you. Even Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said as advice to when you go to take the zakah, don't take the best of their wealth. Yeah. Meaning that you could take the actual items themselves. Yeah. So imagine you have stock, which is now cash equivalents. Yeah. So you had stock. You don't have to liquidate the stock to go and now you could just give what it is, and whoever's receiving the zakah and distributing the zakah, they can do it as is. So if you have, for example,
what if it's not beneficial, like to poor people, the stuff that you have?
I mean, I'm not saying you don't liquidate it.
It's interesting because that would make life a lot easier if you could just give the stock out.
Yeah.
Like, what if I sell like merchandise, right? That has just like my logo on there. So I'm talking about very real situations. This is why I don't like e-commerce. It's why I don't buy and trade anything with stocks. Yeah. Because why this is the Zakat, it gets a bit complicated.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you have to look at for example, you mentioned stuff with your own logo.
Yeah, like 5 t-shirts.
Yeah. So you could give the 5 you could do the t-shirts out, but then I would say technically you should liquidate. Why? Because there's a bit of a conflict of interest. Because if you gave out the 5 t-shirts to someone, they are effectively advertising your company, and that could come into your attention that you are giving zakah, but you're also getting something out of it by advertising it. It's a bit of a branding thing. It's a branding thing. I mean, if it was like food or pens or something like that, you can make a case that 2.5% of that to someone, they can now sell it on eBay, and they could probably get something out. You know what I'm saying?
So say I got 10 cars. Each car is, I said, 5.
Yeah, I mean, a car you have to liquidate because you can't, unless a car is exactly 2.5%. You can't give half of a car.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's why liquidation is usually the route you go. You do what's called taqweem. You go the value because that's what makes money. Money is fungible, meaning that if I have a bar of gold, 10 kg,
you can't break it up.
No, if you break it into half.
Sorry, you can't break it up. It's inconvenient.
No. I'm saying, imagine you have 1 kilogram of gold, and you halved it somehow, however you did it. Those 2 pieces are still gold. It hasn't affected the value whatsoever. If I have a car and I halve it, the value is gone. You've killed the value of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
You can't break into pieces.
Each part retains its value when it's broken up. Yeah. That's what it means when something's fungible.
Yeah, exactly that.
When you break it up, it retains the value.
That's why.
Like if I broke this table in half, it has no value.
Yeah.
If I broke
other than firewood.
But it doesn't retain the same value it had when it was.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have for example, food stocks are forms of money. Rice, dates, because if I have a bag of dates, I can easily halve that bag into 2, and it's still the same thing.
It retains the value.
Yeah.
Shaykh, just one last question before we conclude. So when it comes to paying money on wealth that has gone through the cycle and it's remained above the threshold, what about, for example, let's just say I made 10k today and a year went by, first Muharram next year is 2.5 is due on that, right? But let's just say, for example, the next month I made another 10k.
After you pay zakah?
No, as in today, right now, I made 10k, 1st of Muharram. Then 1st of Safar, I make another 10k, right? So I've made 10k back to back. And then the next month, I made 10k again. So each of these different amounts, like every month, let's say whatever came in, I spent like 2-3k. So I've got like 7-8k left over from every £10,000 that came in every month. And it came in like that. Every month I made that money. Do I, when the year passes, pay 2.5% on all of that? Or do I have to track every single amount of wealth that came in that was above the threshold and monitor each and every single one of those? No. And then pay zakat on that accordingly?
Yeah, so that's why zakat is really simple. And we like to think, for example, let me ask you a question specifically. Whatever you have on the day of zakah, you pay zakah. And think of it like this. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent people out to go and collect the zakah from different tribes and villages and whatnot. And they arrived there. Do you think they did a muraqabah or asked them what was their accounts for the last year and had to remember what happened here? No. They just went to their room where they stored their wealth. Okay, that's how much you got here. I'll take a half and move on. Yeah. That's it. Whatever you have at the moment, that's it. That's literally it. Nothing more.
So then, some of the wealth though hasn't remained for a year.
Or the thing is, that's the point. The issue of remaining for a year is just to do with eligibility. Are you from the aghniya? It's not to do with the wealth itself remaining and whether that wealth itself is zakatable. That is just to do with whether you are eligible to pay zakah. So let me give you an example. You've got 6k today. This time next year, on Islamic calendar, it's time to pay zakah. 6k again. But the day before you paid the zakah, someone gave you £1 million. So you've literally, in the grand scheme of things, you've had 6k for the whole year, and for one day,
you had $1 million.
You had an extra $1 million. Do you pay zakah on all of that? Yes.
Yes, you do.
Likewise.
And it's wajib.
Yes.
It's
likewise.
Not that I have to wait another year.
No.
From the day that.
No. Likewise, you had nothing yesterday. Today, someone gave you £1 million. So you start counting from today. This time next year, the day before you pay zakah,
you're back down 0. You
spent everything but 5k. You pay zakah on 5k.
Just 5k. Just what you have on the day.
Yeah. Or here's another one. This is a beautiful point which I don't think I don't think many talk about this. There's a guy. You ready for this one? Yeah. You ready for this one? Is man ready for this one? Yeah. Man is a guy. Yeah. He works in some mad job. Like he works like maybe 5 hours a week. That's all. Yeah. 5 hours a week. But he gets on a monthly basis £1 million. A month, bruv.
There are people out there.
Yeah. Just about 3-4 hours a week, and he gets a month £1 million. Wow. My guy is bathing. But every month though, he manages to spend all of it. I don't know what my man's doing, but he spends, at the end of the month, bruv, my man's broke. He's broke, bro. He got nothing. So then the guy looks at him and says, but wait, how's that fair? He earns £1 million a month. At the end of the month, he's broke, and therefore he pays no zakah. Is that fair? Bro, is he from the aghniya?
No, he's broke.
He's broke. I mean, based on what we just said, he pays no zakah. Yeah. So how does that add up? How can we say then that the Sharia is saying we take from the rich and give to the poor in our modern definition?
That's assuming he's not a musrif. It could be has another sin.
Forget sin. No, he's just, bro, I don't know what he does with his money.
Yeah.
Whatever he does, so halal, yeah? So halal or so haram. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. But the point is, we would look at him in modern day standards and say, this guy is definitely rich.
Yeah.
Look at his wages, because remember, our minds have been twisted to look at value in terms of your wages.
Not in terms of your assets.
Not in terms of your assets. Because remember, taxation is based on your income.
Okay.
So we will say your income bracket. If you earn £100,000, £200,000, £1 million a month, You're definitely from the rich. You have a higher tax bracket. You all those kind of conversations come into play. So we look at it in Islamic perspective. He's not from the aghniya because he's not paying zakah.
He's broke.
He's technically broke every month. So the question is, bro, how's that even fair? How's that fair? Let me explain.
I actually know people that make 100,000 every month
And spend it all.
Not a lot of people like that, right?
But let's break this down.
Then they struggle to.
Let's get a deeper understanding in this and why Islam doesn't tell them to pay zakat as well. This person who has £1 million a month and manages to spend that £1 million a month, we don't impose on him zakah because zakah is already given. How's that? Through commerce. The man who is poor
he's giving his money to other people by buying and spending, and
him spending is putting the money into the economy,
and then others are going to give zakat from that money.
Because remember, we put zakat on savings, money that we can't access. Listen carefully.
Okay.
Money that we can't access, the poor man can't access. But this guy is spending his money, which means the poor man
can access it.
Through work, through trade.
Someone else will get it, give sadaqah, give zakat.
This poor guy who he can't pay his rent, he can't pay his rent, he can't feed his family. He comes to this guy and says, look, I'll wash your car. I'll wax your boat. I will serve you food. He gets paid. He now has the income.
Makes sense. He's got a driver, he's got a butler, he's got a cook, a chef.
And this is why this now changes your perspective now. I know many people won't agree with me this, but it changes your perspective now on luxury goods. Luxury goods, I see luxury goods as the way in which we can access his wealth. For example, do you reckon that these people who make the luxury goods are all super rich themselves? No, but some guys are poor, or they're trying to get by. They have a menial job. They say, you know what, I want to make a business of plastic wrapping cars or making bling on cars. I want to provide a service in the rich. That's my business model. I've come out of poverty by providing the industry for the rich.
Makes sense.
Think about it. I mean, just for a pause. Just pause for a second.
I'm gonna go get that Prada bag.
No, but that's a good point. That Prada bag. I'm not saying that I agree with the company Prada or machine or whatever, but who made those bags? Some other person in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan or whatnot. If that bag didn't exist, those factories wouldn't exist in those countries. They probably even get no money to feed their families. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with the low wage they pay them, but the fact is they get paid. They should get paid more, maybe. I agree. There should be some. I mean, that's the international trade on that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, if you were to eliminate luxury goods,
then there will be a
whole industry has gone,
and that means people somewhere along the world are.
They're gonna have to do.
It's like what we studied in science with regards to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like, like something insignificant like grass. If you were to remove it, everyone would die.
Yeah.
It's like the cartoon, the Bee cartoon. Was it the Bee movie one?
Yes.
But basically, if the bees die, then there's the whole world.
Yeah. So my point is that this person who we think as a musrif, he's a spendthrift. Yeah, we can argue, we can talk Islamically that there are better ways
to spend your money
or spending your money. We get that, and that's his loss. Yawm al-Qiyamah.
Yeah.
However, on an economic perspective, he's still providing a service for people. And I mean, think of it this way. Let's just one last question. I'm a multi-millionaire, bro. Forget multi-millionaire. I'm a billionaire, bro. I got billions. What could I spend? If I said to you, I'm not gonna buy these rubbish Bugattis and these fancy cars. I'm not gonna have a mansion. I'm gonna live in a flat, bro. I'm gonna live in a flat, some council estate. I'm gonna live frugally. I'm gonna have just some normal Primark clothes. So therefore, when am I ever gonna spend that money? How does anyone? Bro, there's not enough Primark clothes I could buy that will allow me to spend that money. There has to be something that I can spend that money on. I need. There are boats. Do I need a boat? I don't need a boat. But there are others who can make a boat. What goes into making a boat? There's the wood that needs to be cut down to make the panels for these boats, to make the handles. There's the plastic industry. There's the rubber industry. But there's so much that goes into making a boat that feeds down the thing.
Well, I actually really want to get a boat. Big service. I should really want to.
I think it's overrated. But my point is,
no, it's about going into the sea.
You know, funny thing is, I used to want to have a boat just for the fact of going off the grid.
Yeah, that's my. As in, for me, it's like I don't care how nice. I mean, it would be nice for it to be a nice boat, but just being in the ocean.
But the thing is, what I discovered is, ironically, just being in the ocean doesn't mean you're outside of any jurisdiction. You're not free.
As in, I'm free from people being able to access me through my phone and Wi-Fi.
No, that's what I thought, but it's not. That's not actually how it works. Anywhere you go, you're still under someone's jurisdiction. As in, if you want to dock in Spain, you think you can just roll up in Spain and say, "Yeah, I'm here"? No, bro.
No, my thing is, I just want to be in the ocean.
They go for
I want to scream, and there's not a human to hear me.
See, it sounds great. It's like those people who say, "I want to live in a village," or "I got somewhere remote." It sounds good initially. And I made a telegram. No, I made a telegram post the other day. I said, "It sounds good in theory, but drop down those stairs and see how quickly you want people around you, bro." Yeah. Where's the ambulance, bro? Where's the hospital? Yeah. Bro, where's the telephone line even to call the hospital, bro? Bro, there's a lot of things we take for granted and see. Anyway, we're going off tangent again. So to conclude the issue of zakah, we've discussed about the threshold. We've discussed about the whole. We've discussed about how you give it. Give it however way you want to give it, whichever way is easiest. And that's why I believe, and let's see if history will remember this as a good thing to say or a bad thing to say. I reckon Bitcoin is better than gold because I can easily pay zakah on Bitcoin. Literally, I just choose the amount and send it. Whereas gold, bruv, do you know how difficult it is to pay zakah on gold?
It's very hard.
Well, I got 1 kg bar of gold. How do you pay zakah on 1 kg bar of gold?
Go to a goldsmith shop it out.
That's the thing. You think that. But bruv, if you cut a piece of a gold bar off, that's now suspect. Who's gonna buy that broken piece of gold? But when you buy and sell coins or bars, they want it intact.
Yeah.
You can't just break off a piece if you think about it.
It's true.
So you have to kind of convert that to another bar, and it's complicated. It's complicated. So that's why we have fiat in the first place, because gold is complicated. Anyway, and then now we mentioned about last thing will probably be on. I guess issue of stock. Yeah, so your stock you have, ideally you liquidate, because ideally whoever you're giving the stock to is not gonna be accessible. You sell pencils, bro. What poor guy wants a couple bags of pencils? It doesn't want bags of pencils.
Makes sense.
So liquidate, because you're the man who sells the stuff, so you can easily liquidate the stuff and then give it to zakah.
Allah Shaykh, barakallah feek, man. This has been a very insightful podcast, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Inshallah, we need to do the same thing on riba, which is the evil,
and it's the opposite of zakah.
Yeah,
the evil twin is the evil twin.
Opposite, right? And we need to do something on that. A couple other things as well, inshallah. Well, I'm very, very, very grateful to have you here. And on that note about the luxury goods, just as a heads up, we do give out customized Rolexes to those who are on the Righteous and Rich School, who make their first million after having joined. So, customized Rolex with the Righteous and Rich brand.
But wait, is that the first million in Indonesian rupiah?
No, USD.
Oh, okay. Because if it's Indonesian rupiah, that's like only a couple thousand pounds, isn't it?
USD equivalent. Barakallah feek. Well, I really enjoyed that. I mean, guys. One of the things that we have is, obviously, we have the Righteous and Rich School, alhamdulillah, the Righteous and Rich Skills Academy, and from the things that we do teach on there is the Islamic knowledge that you need as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, right? And that's not necessarily just things pertaining to Islamic finance and the rules of buying and selling, but also aqeedah, fiqh, things that you need even before that, right? Salah, zakat, hajj, fasting, Allah, who is He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, His names, His attributes, how to worship Him, all of those things. And of course, alongside that, all of the business knowledge that you need primarily is an academy where you can learn these business skills, sales, marketing, the different sub-disciplines of marketing and of sales, so on and so forth. So check that out, the link below, inshallah. I don't know if you guys will benefit, man. As you can see, we're trying to put halal money back on top with the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, and being a entrepreneur with the Islamic mindset, the correct Islamic mindset, it requires it's very different to, everyone else just making money. Look, in every penny we're trying to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join us at the link below. And with that said, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.